Hey everyone, if you or your child is 10 years old or older and you still have this upper baby canine, you better see an orthodontist. Here's why. Time for some PFOing so you know where you're going. Hey everybody, Dr. Packard here, Packard Family Orthodontics. Welcome back. So today's episode was inspired by a recent consult that I had, and this is not a rare consult, but a family will come in, child will come in, and they have what's called the infamous impacted maxillary canine. Yes, you saw it in that first picture, in that video, where most of the adult teeth are present, but there's one upper baby canine remaining. And if that's you, then you could have an impacted canine and you need to see an orthodontist. Before we get into that though, as a reminder, subscribe to the channel. I'd love to share with you as much as I know about the wonderful world of straight teeth and beautiful bites. Go ahead and like this video or dislike this video so I can get a feel. And then if you have any questions about what we talk about or anything else related to straight teeth and beautiful bites, leave a comment below and I can answer that question and or maybe even make a special video just for you. Okay, so getting into it. Remember, first thing, as it relates to impacted maxillary canines, aka stuck upper adult canines. If you or your child is 10 years old and or older with a baby or a baby upper canine still in place, you need to do at least two things. One, wiggle it. If it's wiggly, that's a good sign. Maybe the adult tooth is coming down. Second, go see an orthodontist. So why go see an orthodontist? Well, let me tell you a little bit about impacted canines. Impaction, again, meaning the tooth is stuck. A lot of teeth come into place just naturally, right? They have no problems. But on occasion, there are different teeth. The maxillary canine or the upper adult canine is one of those teeth that is commonly impacted or becomes stuck during the process of coming down into place. There's different reasons why teeth get stuck. In the case of the, again, adult, so the permanent adult canine on top, there are different theories. One of the theories is related to peg laterals. If you have lateral adult incisors that are a little narrow or small, you may find that your adult canines deviate from course. That means in their normal eruption pattern, top teeth, the top adult canines, they start way up here and then they have to drift all the way down. See these cuspids? They drift all the way down into place. And sometimes, for whatever reason, when those laterals are narrow, those adult canines sometimes lose their sense of direction and they drift off course, just like in this case. You can see how instead of coming down in between over the top of that baby canine, it's kind of gone more towards the middle of the teeth, towards our big incisors here. And this is all happening inside the bone. All right, so one theory is, or one of the reasons why adult canines don't come down is they deviate from course. And there's different theories about, again, why. It could be related to your narrow laterals. We're still learning about this and exactly why this happens, but something to keep an eye out for. Another reason why canines get stuck is not enough room. And that can happen to lots of different teeth. When you are crowded for whatever reason, whether you lost a baby tooth too soon and so the other permanent teeth like crowded into place so that the other adult teeth can't come down, that could be one reason. Sometimes the permanent teeth are just really big compared to the bones that you have, and so that creates crowding and can limit the progress, the downward movement of those permanent canines into proper position. Well, if this is you and you have this, and you go to the orthodontist, or you're just wondering what they're gonna say, here's an idea. To resolve an impacted canine, you've got a couple options. To keep things simple, again, your best bet to find out what's best for you, go talk to your specific orthodontist. You got two options, generally speaking. We're just trying to keep things simple, okay? One is you can try to bring the tooth into place, line it up, bring it down from where it's like hiding, bring it in, or you can take out the tooth, meaning you can extract it. So, in order to bring one of those canines into place, the first thing you have to do is create space. You have to make sure that where the tooth will come in, you have space. So in the case that you saw in the picture, in the video, they still had a baby canine there, which is great because it's holding some space. So you have to get braces on or Invisalign on, and you have to take out the baby tooth. Once the baby tooth is out, if you need to make more space first, you might have to spend some time doing that. Then, Once the spacing is ready, your orthodontist will send you, likely, to a specialist or your dentist who can do a particular procedure called an exposure, an expose and bond. It means that they're going to expose the tooth. It's covered in gums and bone up in your mouth, and they have to remove some of those gums and bone, at least in part, so that they can see the tooth. Once they see it, they glue or bond a bracket-like appliance to the tooth. Usually that bracket has a chain, a gold chain that comes out and it dangles down through the tissue, and then your dentist or your surgeon puts that tissue back over the tooth and you have that chain there. And then they attach the chain to the braces or the Invisalign. Then you come back to see me, the orthodontist, and we start the process of pulling that in. It's kind of like fishing. Okay, you're gonna be in the fighting chair for a while sometimes with those big, because they're big teeth and they're long teeth and they gotta come a long way. So that's a challenging procedure. Orthodontists know what they're doing, know how to get those in, and generally speaking, like fairly good success rate for getting those impacted canines into place. But it does take long. So the other option was taking out the permanent canine. If you take out that permanent canine, well, now you don't have a permanent canine, so you're like, well, what do I do? You can, one, keep the baby tooth in place for as long as you can. Sometimes baby teeth can last for years, even decades, before they fall out. And so that's one option. And then you just deal with whatever problem spacing you have then. Or you can decide to be more proactive. You can take out the baby tooth now and do two things. One, is you can hold the space. You work on everything else, line everything up, try to fix the bite, and then you work with whoever's gonna place a restorative component like an implant or a bridge, and you say, hey, the space is good, do we like it? And then we put in a retainer to try and hold that space until the individual is ready for an implant or the other restorative thing, which sometimes can be later in life. So you end up with like sometimes a hole that you're trying to cover for several years. The other option I said, once you take out the baby tooth, is you can try to close all that space. What's challenging about this is that you're gonna try and bring all of your teeth together to close the space where that baby canine was. And whenever you're closing a big space on one side of your mouth, it can have a detrimental effect, a bad effect on the cosmetics of your midline, because you're pulling one side and it pulls this teeth from the middle over to the side and tries to pull these teeth forward, so it can really mess things up. So what you might consider is what we call a TAD, or a temporary anchorage device. It's a screw that goes in your bone. We're not gonna get too much into it, but that is a way to try and preserve the cosmetics of everything while closing the space. Okay, whew, that is a ton of information. Not trying to overwhelm you. Maxillary impacted canines, they're tough. And so you need to be looking out for it and make sure that it doesn't catch you off guard. You definitely, unfortunately, some people have to manage it when they're later in high school, and that is no fun at all. Is there any way to try and prevent this? Well, there are a few options to try and do this. Again, 10 years old is a good age. If the baby canine isn't wiggly at that point, go see your orthodontist to check on that permanent canine and see where it's at. Because there are two things at least that you can try to do to help prevent that maxillary canine from becoming impacted. Option number one, you can take out the baby canine. Taking out the baby canines and maybe other associated, maybe the baby teeth right next to it, have been associated with success in bringing those canines down into their natural position. Again, the exact reason why that happens has maybe not been, is not completely understood, but what we do know is that one option is you can take out those baby canines, and sometimes those deviated permanent canines, if they're getting out of control, out of position, will drift back down naturally into place once you've removed those canines. That's a watch and see once you've taken out the baby canines. The other option involves early treatment, where you can try to create space around the baby canines and other adult teeth right in front. This type of creating space is a variation of taking out the baby teeth. When you take out baby teeth, you're kind of creating space. But in this case, you create space by using an expander or maybe some braces to put space around the baby tooth. And sometimes that has been shown to increase the probability of those adult canines that may be deviated from course coming back down into proper position. Or if there was not enough room for them, then they come down into better position at those points. Not a guarantee, but one of the best options to try and prevent having to go through an impacted maxillary canine. So listen, tell your friends to watch out for the infamous maxillary impacted canine. You don't want to let it catch you off guard, but in case it does, don't worry, your orthodontist can be your best friend. A lot of information there. In summary, if you or your child are 10 years old or older and you still have an upper baby canine in place, go see your orthodontist. This is important. You want to try and avoid the impacted maxillary canine. If this is you and you have an impacted canine, don't worry, there's different ways to resolve the issue. But if it hasn't happened to you yet, but it's starting to happen, there are ways to help prevent it from getting worse. So talk to your orthodontist for the best solution for you. Hope this video was helpful. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. And if you want to receive more information about straight teeth and beautiful bites, subscribe to the channel, and I hope that I can be helpful. That's all I've got. Just a little PFOing so you know where you're going. Packard out.